With this broken heart and my happy facade, going into this party, excited about Tony and Mykelti and the babies, while my heart is breaking.
Hello everyone and welcome. Today I'm just doing a short video about Mykelti and Tony and some of the stuff they have said over on Patreon that I found interesting and thought some of you might like to know. Many of you might not know this, but I have mentioned it over here on the channel. I will subscribe to Mykelti or Gwendolyn's Patreon for a while, and then I'll unsubscribe when I'm not watching anymore. But with this new season starting, I decided to go back and subscribe to Mykelti's. I know they're going to be doing lives where they watch the episodes, so I thought maybe I would enjoy watching them and getting their perspective. And there were just a few things that I did find interesting, and I wanted to share some of that with you guys. First of all, when Mykelti is doing the confessionals, that baby bump is not real. And I have to admit, I feel like a fool for not giving it any thought. But they do the confessionals later, so she was no longer pregnant. Why did I never think about that? I almost feel like I must be the most oblivious person. I know they filmed that a lot later. But I never gave it any thought that she's not actually pregnant anymore. So those are fake baby bumps and she used pillows. So there, for those of you that are like me and don't think those kind of things through, there's an interesting fact, or at least it was interesting to me. Next, there is a part of this where someone asked Mykelti a question about getting information from Cody and Robin. And Mykelti basically responds by saying, I'm not going to call and ask them that because then they're going to want to know if I'm getting the info for myself or for Patreon. That is where their relationships are right now. That is how divided up they are in this family and how much distance there is between them. Like, they don't know when they're calling each other what that information is going to be used for. And it's interesting because, I believe this show played a part in how everything happened in this family. I don't necessarily know if I think it was good or bad. I do think being on this show helped these women have independence and have money they might have not had before. So I, in some ways, think this show helped them. Who knows how this would have turned out if they continued on in poverty, struggling. We don't know what the story would have been. It might have been worse than this. We don't actually know. But I do think the show played a role in it. You can't deny that. Now I'm wondering how much of a role is Patreon and social media going to play in the relationships with the kids and the parents? If they feel like they can't call each other without that information being shared on Patreon and social media, that's like a whole new problem. And some of these kids are making a living or at least have a serious side hustle with social media. And I'm actually talking about Mykelti and Tony. One thing I had commented on when I recapped episode 1 of season 19 was that Cody seems to be practicing restraint, and he didn't do that before. In previous seasons, he said a lot of crap about his kids that I don't think he should have said. So when the issue with Maddie was brought up in this last episode, I kind of said, maybe Cody's learning that he shouldn't talk about his kids that way. Now, there was one commenter below, like in my video, there was a comment left by someone that was basically like, no way, you were wrong. Cody's not practicing any sort of restraint, right? Nothing's changed with Cody. He is the same person. He hasn't learned anything. It seems like you might kind of be right, because basically Mykelti said she thinks Cody didn't say anything about Maddie because Maddie chooses not to be on the show. Had his issues with Maddie been on the show, it's possible he would have been saying the same sort of stuff that he has said about the other kids. Now, I do think Cody's the type of person that wouldn't say anything about his daughters because he's going to treat his daughters a little bit differently. But I thought maybe Cody had actually learned a lesson and now he knows he shouldn't say stuff about his kids. But according to Mykelti, it has more to do with what is on the show and what isn't on the show. So he held back because Maddie doesn't choose to put that kind of stuff out there publicly on the Sister Wives show, so he isn't going to comment on it there. So that is Mykelti's angle. I don't know that she knows that for a fact. I think she's making an assumption, but I can only assume she knows her dad better than we do. One of the big rumors going around social media has been that Mykelti and Tony don't have a relationship with Cody and Robin because of something that happened at the funeral. And it was something that had been put on a Patreon during a live. And what's funny about it is it has turned into such a big rumor on social media, but when it's brought up to Mykelti and Tony, they can barely recall it. Mykelti's like, I really don't know what anyone, what everyone's talking about. Maybe that's something that Tony had typed, like responding to something. Like, to them, it's not a big deal, but out in the social media world, it's huge. In their recap, when they were answering questions, they did clarify. They went a little bit further with that. I'm going to put the audio here so you can listen to Tony talking about it.
Oh, Andrew, I didn't say that Robin said anything. I said things happened, and it was a tough time. And look, the funeral wasn't. It was like a time for healing that could have been done, and I don't think enough healing happened.
So there you go. That is Tony's take on what he said. This family has so much drama and damage that has been done. It doesn't surprise me that in the middle of that grieving and the shock of it all happening, they couldn't heal from that, because I'm sure there's a lot of bitterness and anger that actually came from the loss of Garrison, as well as some of them coming closer. Because Mykelti says some of the kids are closer now than they were before, but I'm sure that's not how all of the relationships in this family unfolded after the loss of Garrison. I can't help but think there might have been some people who were very bitter about the whole situation with the family and with Cody. And that is just something that is based on my personality and how I handle things. Other people are probably way better at letting go of grudges and not being bitter than I am. So in the middle of me grieving someone, I don't know if I'm going to be healing from things. I'm someone who would be sad and probably more angry for a while. But Tony's right. It should have been a time the family came together, and Mykelti has said some of them did. Some of those kids are closer now than they were before because they don't want something like this to happen again. Now, this next thing I want to talk about is something we all know, but I had never observed until I really watched Mykelti and Tony doing the live, and that is how much Mykelti doesn't like Mary. So we know from the show that Mykelti won't invite Mary to events, but I had never watched Mykelti's face as she was watching the show, right? So she's watching it and you can see by her face she doesn't like Mary. Like, you can tell she has a facial reaction when Mary is on the screen, and someone actually said something about it in the comments, which made me feel a little bit better, because I was like, maybe I'm being too critical. But no, other people see it as well. And it's weird to me because I feel like Mykelti's reaction to Mary doesn't bother me nearly the way that Tony's does. Mykelti's just like, I know a side of Mary that other people don't know. I don't like her. Mykelti seems to be very matter of fact about it. She doesn't have a good relationship with Mary because of her experience with Mary. But when Tony is talking about Mary and laughing about skipping parts of her on the show and how she's boring, like someone left a comment saying she was boring and Tony thought that was really funny. When Tony's doing it, it reminds me of a kid being a bully. I don't know if I'm explaining it right. If you guys have watched them and you feel the same way, or if you don't feel that way, let me know down in the comments. There's just something about the way Tony is when he's laughing at Mary that feels very mean, and I don't actually get that vibe from Mykelti when she is talking about her. And it's very possible that I have just missed something that has happened between the two of them. So if you know what the beef is between Tony and Mary, let me know down in the comments, because I'm interested. Or is this guy just sticking up for his wife? With all of that being said, there is one thing I agree with Tony on, and that is the issue with Mary and Cody. Way back in the last season, I made the comment that Mary had to know Cody didn't want to be with her anymore. And the comment section for that video had no problem telling me I was wrong. Like, he has been misleading her. He hasn't been telling her the truth. And then in this episode, season 19, episode 1, Cody admits that he may have been misleading Mary. There may have been times he wasn't clear about things because he was going back and forth when it came to what he wanted for the relationship. But no matter what he was saying in private, some of the stuff that he was saying to her face on the show was so rude. I feel like she had to have known. And that's where I agree with Tony. Tony's like, there were so many red flags. Even if Cody was flipping and flopping back and forth, was she just ignoring all of the signs that Cody didn't want to be with her? And one of the big things for me was that episode when I believe they were celebrating their anniversary. They were together in the car, and he's basically like, don't wait for me. I'm not coming to you. I'm not coming to see you. He basically was telling her he didn't want to be with her. And there they are in the car together. I would feel so embarrassed if someone did that to me and it was being filmed and we're supposed to be on a date and spending time together. So I feel like I was a little bit right when I said she had to have known. She had to have known. There were so many signs that he wasn't treating her right, that he didn't want to be with her. She was in denial. And that is where I do agree with Tony. No matter what was being said back and forth, no matter what Cody's feelings were, I'm going to work on it. I'm not going to work on it. I want to be with you. I don't want to be with you. There's a point she had to go, more often than not, he doesn't want to be with me. I almost forgot this, but I do want to talk about one more thing. There was a commenter who said something, and it was to Tony and Mykelti on their live, said something about Cody being a narcissist when he is accusing the family of making plans to spite him. You know, Cody says he feels punished when he is left out, and the commenter just said it was very narcissistic of Cody to think that they're making plans on purpose to leave him out. And I really expected Mykelti or Tony to explain why Cody was saying this or sort of stick up for him a little, just because, you know, they often stick up for Robin and Cody, but neither one of them did. And I kind of felt like Tony gave a little nod there, like he agreed about it. He read the comment out loud and no one denied it. And all I can think is, if they still have a good relationship with Robin and Cody sees that, he is going to be mad. This is the sort of thing that would make Cody talk about how everyone is saying bad things about him and how everyone is talking bad about him. So, from my perspective, that relationship with Cody and Robin must be at a place that it's not very good at all, or the communication is so little, they're not even concerned about what Cody thinks anymore. And one last thing, Mykelti did confirm that Robin is there for the birth of the twins. That was mentioned by Christine in the last episode. Like, Robin will probably be there. Mykelti says that she is. I know people have opinions about that. They have opinions about Mykelti being that close to Robin. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole today because people have a lot of feelings. I have some feelings about it. It is what it is. Mykelti chooses to have a good relationship with Robin, or did choose to previously. So Robin is at the birth of the twins with Christine. I do think it's interesting that Mykelti and Tony now moved to North Carolina. But anything I feel about that is just a feeling, and I'm making assumptions, so I'm not going to say anything more about that. But if you want to say something, you can go ahead and leave a comment down below. And if you liked this video, I hope that you will consider clicking like and maybe subscribe if you want to come back. I will be putting out another recap and some commentary about Sister Wives. It should be out Monday afternoon, and then I'll do another video the next Friday. So I think that's going to be my schedule, unless something really interesting pops up midweek. It should be Monday and Friday videos. So I do hope you guys will come back for those. But that is it, you guys. Thanks for watching or listening, whichever one you do. I hope you'll come back.